Today on First Cup, we're going to talk about books. I'm going to respond to some quotes about books. We're going to answer some viewer questions on balancing traditional training and gym training, as well as some questions on diet and what I eat. Stick around. And we're live in 5, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Today is Monday. It is August 9th, 2021. My name is Jeremy. This is my first cup of coffee. Very hot. Can't taste it yet. I don't know if I slept well last night. I'm honestly not sure. I had a hard time falling asleep. And I remember feeling frustrated about that. And then my alarm was going off. I was frustrated about that. I want to sleep more. I didn't use the alarm either day this weekend. I will say that the only positive thing at this point of not having the cat is that I get to sleep later. It's the fact that I can find something positive in there is a good thing. Good morning, Stacy. But I slept well over the weekend, had a really busy weekend. I didn't even go to the gym, and I'm completely sore. It was all work in the yard, all weekend. Here, let's change the band around. There we go. And turn this off. There we go. Just a ton of work in the yard. I've got apple butter cooking down. I canned up 5 quarts of applesauce yesterday. What else did I do? Well, the big project, something that's been bugging me for years. I've got my well, most houses have a well. I've got a well, but I've also got a spring in the back. And at some point, this used to be a farm, so I'm guessing back then, they put a cap on it. There are those big concrete rounds on it. And I said, the power goes out, I could pump water. Except that the top section was off center enough that it was kind of sketchy to be near it. It was a gap that you could lose your leg in. And I've spent the last few years looking at it. How do I do this? And originally, some friends were going to come over on Saturday and help me move it. And they never showed up. We're not going to talk about that part. I'm very frustrated with quite a few people right now and their complete inability to show up for me when I ask. But my neighbor's got a tractor, and I said, hey, what do you think? Because he's helped me out with the tractor on a few things, and he likes using the tractor. Well, short version is, that was Saturday, and on Sunday, he came over with the tractor, and we fixed it. It took maybe 30 minutes, including time for him to drive up and back. That was it. And now, I can do all the landscaping and everything I want to do in that corner of the property. What's the moral of the story? Don't give up, I guess. It only took 8 years for me to get this fixed. What else did I do? I hung out with some friends. There was a birthday in there. Had a few beers. Cleaned up the house. I didn't even leave this place yesterday because I was so busy cooking stuff. Blueberries and apples and shelling hazelnuts, and I just worked. I just worked from 8 o'clock on. It was kind of insane. And I'm sore from all the lifting and the carrying and everything else that one could be sore from. And it's a nice feeling. I feel productive. I feel like I did something with my body. And then today, there's a lot going on today. I've got 2 things that are kind of out of the norm. Monday's my meeting day. I've got 3 or 4 morning meetings. They always stack up. But then I'm going to sit down with a client, and we're going to overhaul their business. Client serves this broad of a client niche. She wants to go to this. So there's a lot that we're going to have to do. We've put a bunch of things in place because this has been brewing for a long time. But we're going to have to really dial this in. Stacy says, chop wood, carry water. Yeah. I don't mind it when the power goes out here. I can't get any work done, but I'm still alive. Good morning, Mel. But then after I work that stuff out with that client, there's a, I don't know if I can call him a friend yet. I don't know him that well. And I know him professionally. So let's say colleague. A colleague is hosting an event in Burlington. And originally it was going to be like 3 weeks from now. And then when I was at the co-working space on Tuesday, he said, oh yeah, that event got moved to Monday. Who does that? I don't have high hopes for this event. Unfortunately, I am sponsoring this event, and I'm fairly certain I threw my money into a hole. Because the last I knew, there were like 6 people who were going to show up. There isn't even a Facebook event for this thing. Maybe I shouldn't be so judgmental. I'm pretty good at hosting events. Maybe he's not. That's okay. But I'm just... most people don't have the ability to show up for you. That's unfortunately the lesson I'm starting to learn. Most people are so hell-bent on themselves and their own self-interests that I think it's really hard to find people who meet my standards. Somebody asks me for help, I help. Somebody needs something and I can provide it, I will. But most importantly, if I tell somebody I'm going to show up, I show up. Every time. Even if I don't want to. Like I wanted to go to a birthday party this past weekend. No, I didn't. Even though I really like the people, they're both very intense. The two that showed up, the one who was hosting it, there were supposed to be others. Other people didn't show, but the 2 who were there, people I love dearly. They're very intense people. I was not in a space where I could deal with intense, but I went and stayed quiet quite a bit of it because I said I was going to show up. And when you tell somebody you're going to do something, you should do it. And unfortunately, as I get older, I'm realizing that that's not something most people do. And it bums me out. Because I think they should. All right, coffee's good as it's cooling down. I woke up to the smell of apple butter. Or at least cooking apples, because the crock pot's just... It was fun. Saturday, I traded 2 quarts, one of apple butter, like a whole quart of apple butter, which was probably a gallon of apple sauce. It cooked way down. I traded a quart of that and a quart of straight applesauce for 4 pints of ice cream from somebody I know locally. That was fun. I like that. I like trading food. I don't know. There's just something fun about it. And then I had some people show up yesterday and they brought me potatoes and garlic. Like, this is what I love about Vermont. It's like, here, I have lots of garlic. Now you have some. Cool. I don't know if people outside of New England do it like that, but that's how we would do it here. It's great. All right. You want to dig in? Let's dig in. Mel says that's a score. Yeah. Yeah, the ice cream was good. It was really, even though it wasn't super hot out last night, it was humid. The house was hot from all the cooking. I did as much as I could out on the porch, but I ultimately had to bring some of it inside. And it was just hot in here, and I'd been out in the sun, and I don't know if you can see in my face, but I got quite a bit of, for me, tan. And I think my skin's just hot. And I went through like the top inch on 3 of those pints of ice cream. It's heavily packed too. I just sat there and just eating ice cream. So, all right. Well, you guys gave me some stuff to talk about. Frank's got some quotes in here on books, and Chris gave us some questions over on Facebook. And I'm getting better at pulling the questions from Facebook, and we're actually broadcasting onto Twitter today, Periscope rather. So who knows if anybody's coming in from there. All right. According to Frank, today is Book Lovers Day, and I know Frank loves to read. If you are watching live, I would love to know if you had one book recommendation for people watching. And of course, that could be a martial arts book because most people watching are martial artists, or non-martial arts book. Why don't you drop it in the chat and I'll throw those suggestions up on the screen. Reading should not be presented to children as a chore, a duty. It should be offered as a gift. Kate DiCamillo. I completely agree. Whenever you tell someone something, whenever you tell someone that something is a punishment, they're going to become averse to it. You have to go read. No, I don't want to read. And that's exactly what happened to me through high school and college. I read everything. It was insane how much I read. And then I hit high school. I was a kid on the bus. I was reading on the bus. I would read after my homework. I would read instead of watching TV. I mean, I still watch TV, but I would read a lot. And then I hit high school. And my freshman year English teacher was pretty good. He gave us some good books. We read Ender's Game. I liked the stuff he picked for us. And then sophomore year, teacher was very nice. Got the worst grade of my high school career, the only C I've ever received. In high school, I got a few in college. And she made us read The Tempest. Have you ever read The Tempest? I don't mean act it out. I don't mean understand it. I mean just here, read the driest Shakespearean play at 14 years old as a book. And that's when my love of reading started to die. And it was probably a good 10 years after college before I started reading again. And I go in fits and spurts now. Like I'll get a book that really captures me and I'll chew through it. But not every book does that for me. Stacy's recommending In Praise of Slow by Carl Honor. Is that extra 10 miles per hour worth it? Is rushing through lunch to get back to work helpful? It's a great point. There's a movie, it's not a great movie. It's a Justin Timberlake movie called In Time. But the premise of the movie is something that's really stuck with me. Rich people don't run. Rich people don't rush. Rich people take their time. Poor people rush. And it's something I try to remind myself because I do tend to rush. Next. Reading is an act of civilization. It's one of the greatest acts of civilization because it takes the free raw material of the mind and builds castles of possibilities. Ben Okri. I don't know what else I can add to that one. It's pretty solid. Imagination is so important, and we're going to see in the next 20 years what happens when we don't have as much imagination. It is no secret that children are reading less because they have these things. They're being presented how things look and sound and everything as opposed to a book, as opposed to free play, where imagination runs rampant. I don't know what the effect will be, but I don't think it'll be good. How bad will it be? I don't know, but we'll find out. Stacy says, for martial arts books, it's a lot like dancing, an Aikido journey by Ricky Moss. I think if I'm going to recommend books, if somebody's never read Way of the Peaceful Warrior, that's the one. It's the one I would encourage people to read. It's a great book. It was the book that began the transition in my life. And the story, I've shared this story, but I'll share it again. Because if you've read the book, it is such a peaceful warrior story. But I don't need to exaggerate this. My sophomore year of college. Within the first couple months, I get to meet and have a few conversations with this really cute girl who lives next door in a single. And we started talking, and we started hanging out. I was interested. I was really interested. And one day she comes over and she says, I think you should read this book. Now, of course, I'm in college. Cute girl wants me to read a book. I'm going to read the book. So I plowed through it. Didn't take much motivation to get me into it, and I probably would have kept reading it regardless. And then she was gone. She was gone from campus. Did not even get to give her the book back. Now, I heard like a year later that she'd gone through some mental health stuff and had to withdraw from school. But this was all in the span of a few days. She showed up, she put this book in my hands, and she was gone. If you read the book, you'll understand. What do we got? We read in bed because reading is halfway between life and dreaming, our own consciousness in someone else's mind. I think the idea of reading in bed, pulling everything back so it's right here. Physically, it's right here, but energetically, it's all right here. It's in your mind. Everything going on, the action, the conversation, it's all so close to where you're at. And I think that's pretty powerful. You know, when I've written books, I haven't thought about where or when the reader would be reading them. But I hope that if people read the books that I write, if they do read them in bed, that they sleep well, that they have good thoughts, good dreams if they're going to dream. All right. I'm going to leave the quotes there, and then I'm going to switch over. What is happening here? I took a screenshot. That's not at all what was supposed to. That is not where that was supposed to be. No. All right, hold on. How do I find that? What I'm looking for, Chris asked some wonderful questions. And I want to make sure that I get them right. Jeremy, what is your strategy in balancing the arts with going to the gym and working out? What do you focus on? Cardio, strength training? And what diet do you follow? Do you eat a lot of protein-rich foods? What does your diet typically consist of, and what do you also avoid? Okay, lots in there. Let's start with the exercise piece. If you really want to understand how I work out and the philosophies behind what I do when I work out, extra martial arts, like outside martial arts training, whistlekickprograms.com. We've got the strength program, we've got the speed program, we've got the fight conditioning program. Even though I'm not a fighter, even though I'm not, teaching classes, I don't know, despite any of the things that might seem counter, those are the things that I do. At the gym, the majority of what I'm doing is weightlifting. And in between, I'm doing a bunch of mobility. I'm warming up. I'm staying active. And for the style of my training at this time, which admittedly is not terribly intense, the majority of my training is on my own right now, which is not what I want it to be, but I am still trying to figure out that I'm in a transitional point with my martial arts. I'm still trying to figure out what the other side of that looks like. I've got some ideas. I've talked about put on weight. How do you do that? By adding muscle. Secondarily, if you check out the fight conditioning program, we've got a video. There's a whole bunch of stuff where we talk about this. Even in the marketing materials, steady state cardio, like going for a jog, is not going to help you with your martial arts. It won't. And if you want the best example of that, jump in a sparring match and tell me how you feel after 20 seconds. You can go run 5, 8, 10 miles, but you can't spar. Why? And we answer that over there. So you can check that out, whistlekickprograms.com. All those programs over there, I designed them. I designed them based on what I know and what I do. Now the diet question, that's a whole other bag. What do I avoid? The stuff that we all know we should avoid. Okay. Processed food is a plague on our society. It just is. Doesn't mean I don't eat it. I just try not to. Sometimes I want pretzels. I'll eat pretzels, right? Sometimes I want to go out to eat with friends. I'll go do that. But that doesn't mean that's the core of my diet. Most of the time, what I eat is pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and it is built around protein. I aim for 160 grams of protein per day. And one of the things I've learned is that if I choose my protein first and build the rest of the meals around it, everything seems to fall into place. It's really hard to eat a pound of meat and then a pile of, I don't know, French fries. It's hard to eat, plate of fish and then, I don't know, French fries. You know what I'm saying? Protein's critical. Fat is also critical. Carbs are not. Okay. You do need carbohydrates for building muscle. There is tons of value in carbohydrates, especially natural carbohydrates, especially the ones that have fiber in them, right? Fiber, I wish we weren't lumping fiber in under carbs. It is a carbohydrate, but your body operates much better with fiber. At least most people's bodies do. I would assume all, but I won't quite say all. And this is the interesting thing about everybody going keto right now. Most people, 95% of the people who say they're keto aren't actually keto. They're doing low carb. They're doing Atkins. They're doing all these things that come around in these waves every 10 to 15 years. And why do I say you're not keto? Because you're not measuring. And if you're not measuring, you're not doing keto. Because keto does not just mean, oh, I eat a lot of fat and try not to eat carbs. It means you have to eat like a significantly low amount of carbs. And for a lot of people, it's unsustainable. The moment you have a soda, you're out of ketosis. And it takes days to weeks to get back in for most people. So how do I get that protein? Because that's a challenge. Well, my protein sources come from a few places. As of a couple months ago, turkey, fish, eggs, and protein powders. I try not to build it around those protein powders because it's processed, right? I try to start with the whole, the natural. It's what our body was designed for. Whether you believe in evolution or creationism, your body was designed for food, not protein powder. But most mornings, my breakfast is some overnight oats with a couple scoops of powder protein, different sources. So I'm getting about 50 grams of protein at breakfast. And I throw all my supplements in there too. And that's really been a game changer for me. I think the two keys to eating well are routine and planning. You probably read or heard people say, oh, meal prep is really important. Yeah, it is. And it's important because you got to have good stuff available, because inevitably you'll have those days where it's like, oh, I'm craving something. And what's the easiest thing to get into your face? Because you're hungry. There were days in my 20s where I'd come home and there wasn't much food and I was hungry and it was hot out and I would just sit down and eat ice cream. It's not a good plan of attack, right? Now I'm more likely, it's like, there are days, you probably have these too, I can't quite think straight because I'm so hungry. Well, first off, I screwed up. I let myself get there. But secondly, what's something that I know is okay that I can eat and sit for 10 minutes and let the sharp points of that hunger fall off so I can make an intelligent, responsible decision. I'll grab a can of tuna. That's usually what it is. It's usually canned tuna. And then I'll just sit and go, okay. All right. Now I just did that. What should I cook? What am I in the mood for? As opposed to get in my mouth, which is, I can eat. For a small guy, I can eat. You would be surprised. Now that may sound overwhelming. So here's what I suggest to people. If you are trying to change the way you move, exercise, or the way you eat, suggestion is the same. Make one very, very small, a decision so small that it seems like it's not enough, and then do that for a month. We've got a book based around this coming. We're still working on it. We just had another chapter released recently. On the food side, let's say, what's a good one? Let's say you tend to have, I'm going to restructure what I just said. And make sure that for both of those things, instead of worrying about what you're not doing, worry about what you are doing. So when you go to the grocery store or any parking lot, park on the far side of the lot. Make that small change. If you're sitting down to have dinner, instead of worried about what you're not going to eat the protein first. Start there. When you make those really small changes, they add up, and they don't require tremendous amounts of willpower, because that's what ruins most people on their health and fitness goals. Really, any goal, it's willpower. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this every day. I'm gonna get up at 3 a.m. I'm gonna do. It's exhausting. You can't go 0 to 60 on that. You got to get there. If you want to think of it in terms of time, instead of getting up at 6, you get up at 5:50. And you do that for a month, and then it's 5:45. And you slowly move that back. And eventually it's okay. You get to 3 o'clock in the morning, assuming you want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't. I know people who do. Stacy says, sign me up for trying that book out. Yeah, as soon. This book is really exciting. I mean, internally, we've talked a lot about this because it's the first book that we're going to release that I think has a shot at going big. I really do. Will it? I don't know. I'll get all of you involved in the launch, leaving reviews and buying it and everything. But the whole premise is every month we give you one seemingly too small thing to work into your habits. And then over the course of 12 months, you've made 12 small but consistent changes. And you kind of wake up and you're like, oh, I like how this feels. And if that goes well, maybe we do a second release. I don't know. We're working on it. That's it. I'm going to go. I hope you have a good day. I hope you will leave me comments below, whether on YouTube or Facebook. Oh, it's Monday. There's an episode. Let's check that out. What episode is out? Who's out? Who did we talk to? Oh, Kyoshi Dave. Kyoshi David Aarons. You hear that? Watch, we get like a copyright claim on our own stuff. I had a really good time with this guy. We recorded a while ago. I don't remember the details. This is one of the hard parts about what we do. Oh, okay. Yeah. This guy. Listen, you'll like it. Not video on this one. Have a good day. I have a busy day. I'm going to go work on the flexibility book. I got some work to do on that. We might get that released this week. Knock on wood. Need some help from a couple people who owe me a few things on it. But thanks for watching. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. Peace.